A gorgeous Saturday from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and we're set for the #1 Alabama Crimson Tide against the Texas A&M Aggies. Well, again, everybody, this is Roger Hoover. Glad to welcome you to the Connecticut Sausage Crimson Tide Tailgate Show as we're back inside the Alabama Credit Union broadcast booth, and I'm pleased to be joined now by today's Cook's Pest Control sideline reporter, Christian Miller, former Crimson Tide linebacker. And Christian, Roll Tide, it's great to see you. The buzz really is in Tuscaloosa today.
Roll Tide, and the buzz is here. Walking over here, man, it's exciting. We were talking before we got on here, just the energy around here. There's so many faces, whether it's from A&M or here, and everybody's just here to have a good time. Their fans are being real nice, real respectful. So it's exciting, man. I'm excited to see this side of things. Yeah, you mentioned seeing this side of things, of course. Obviously, a great career as a player. Is it probably the first time since maybe one of your recruiting visits where you've kind of seen everything that happens outside Bryant-Denny Stadium on game day? Yeah, and it's exciting, just between the quad and all the tailgates, and there's food and excitement. Everybody's families are in town, man. It's just so fun, and Tuscaloosa is just a special place. And if you haven't been here or experienced, man, you need to get down here because it's awesome. Christian Miller, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Corey just a little bit ago, but I'd love to hear your perspective. The balance between going through the process, which is, of course, the cornerstone of Alabama football, the reason why we've seen so much repeated success under head coach Nick Saban, versus maybe some revenge factor. Obviously, it was a tough game a year ago at Kyle Field. Yeah, you said it. That's definitely a revenge factor. We lost to these guys last year. I kind of think back to when I was here. We lost to Ole Miss in 2014. We were on the road there. They stormed the field. They were hanging on the goalpost. And then they came here in 2015. Unfortunately, we didn't get our revenge that year, but in 2016 we finally did. So yeah, that's definitely going to be in the back of these players' minds, and that's okay. You kind of want that. That gives you that extra edge to say, hey, we need to make a statement. They got the best of us last year. We respect them. Doesn't matter, what happened last year, but it does because, again, that's personal to us, and we're just going to go out there and play our game. But it's like you said, you got to have a good balance. You don't want to be too emotional where you start making some careless decisions and doing things that you don't normally do. But it's okay to have that chip on your shoulder. And for the Crimson Tide, so much is going to depend on what we see coming up in pregame warm-ups, determining who's going to take snaps at quarterback. As Bryce had to leave the last ball game, Bryce Young with injury, Jalen Milroe steps in. First of all, tell us what you thought of Jalen Milroe's performance last week in Fayetteville. I thought he did a great job coming in. It was a hostile environment. You're on the road for an SEC game. He comes in there, he's making plays, not only with his legs, but he made some nice little throws when they needed him to. And I think he just did an overall good job running the offense. And it showed, the guys around him did a good job trusting him. And I think if they need him to do that today, then I think they're going to do a good job of it. I think he's going to go in there and make the plays that he needs to make. And I'm sure they're going to, do things to make him comfortable, try to get some screens in there, whatnot, get his feet wet a little bit. But, I'm excited to see him play. He's a great kid on and off the field, and he's very talented for sure. And he's very fast. Very fast. We saw that on that long run he had. This guy has legs, and as a defense, you have to prepare for that. This guy can really attack us with his legs, so I'm sure that's going to stress these guys out if Jalen Milroe is in the game. Yeah, speaking of stress, he's been compared to like Derrick Henry style runner. As a defense, when you're already going up against some really talented running backs like Jahmyr Gibbs, like Chase McClellan, then you add the quarterback to the mix, and he's tough to tackle, he's tough to bring down. How frustrating is that? It's tough, man, because, again, this guy is an extra running back almost. And no disrespect to him, I don't mean that about his arm. I'm just saying this guy is that talented of a runner. And look at his physique. There's videos circulating online. This guy was cleaning 3-something, like it was nothing. So this is a strong, fast kid. He looks like a creative player on the video games, man. And as a defender, it's one of those things. You have to bring your A game because he's going to be agile. To be shifty enough to shake you, but he also can lower his shoulder if he needs to. So that definitely is something you got to prepare for when you go against a guy like Jalen Milroe. And also for the Alabama defense, obviously things really went Arkansas's way in the third quarter last week, and people can point to the explosive plays made by Jalen Milroe or Jahmyr Gibbs. But how about the defense's performance in the fourth quarter when they had to get some stops against Arkansas? They did a great job, and that's what's important is how you play in those kind of moments. And that's when it matters, and they stepped up to the challenge. And I think that's good to see. I'm going to be biased because I'm a defensive guy, but hey, there's a reason they say defense wins championships, and that's because we always had a motto: if they don't score, they don't win. You know, if no one scores, no one wins. You know, so and they did a great job stepping up to the challenge. Again, hostile environment on the road. You know, guys were getting a little bit of flack for, hey, you know, going on the road. You know, we've seen Alabama struggle, but they stepped up to that challenge, and I'm really proud of them for that. And I think they're going to continue to progress as the season goes on.
Roger Hoover continuing to visit with our Cook's Pest Control sideline reporter Christian Miller. And Christian, what is the tough challenge for Alabama tonight against Texas A&M?
I think the biggest challenge is, you know, trusting the process and going out there. You know, there's a big question mark on who's going to be the quarterback. Just, you know, not paying too much attention to that and just knowing whoever's in the game is going to do their job and do what they need to do to help the team win. I think that's the biggest thing going out there. I mean, you know, they're a little banged up as well. I think they're starting quarterbacks out of the game, and you know, there's a lot of, you know, things going on with their team as well. But you just have to go out there and play your game. You know, A&M is people got to understand. You know, you can't just look at records, right? You know, like, these guys have talented players. They've had great recruiting classes, and these guys are hungry to go out there and prove themselves against Alabama. So we just have to go out there and do what we did like we did last week. You know, I thought we did a great job last week of playing physical, kind of had that Alabama-style run game coming back. Jahmyr Gibbs had 200-plus yards rushing, so I think that's the biggest thing is for us to go out there and play Alabama football and play up to our standard.
And how does Alabama try to slow down a player like Devon Achane, who's kind of like Jahmyr Gibbs? He's really impactful running the football, but also coming out of the backfield as a pass catcher. I mean, A&M's offense, now that they have Aeneas Smith out for the rest of the season, really runs through him in a lot of ways.
It does, you know, and it's tough to have Smith out. He's a great dynamic player, but you know, Alabama has done a great job stopping the run this year. They have done tremendous at stopping the run. So they have to go out there and do that again against a talented guy that Texas A&M has. But, you know, again, I always believe, you know, I trust and believe what Coach Saban always says. It's always about what we do. You know, we're going to play guys that are talented, but we go against the best of the best every day in practice. So, you know what I mean? Like, these game days should be easier than the practices because, again, we practice hard and we go against so many talented guys. So that's I know I'm biased because I have the Coach Saban. I'm brainwashed by Coach Saban now.
That's a good thing, though. The process works.
Hey, the process works, man. You see a lot of success coming from the process, so why change it?
And sticking with that as well, the defensive line for the Crimson Tide. I thought Jaheim Otis had his best game last week against Arkansas, and that's probably one of the best offensive lines Alabama's faced all year without the Razorbacks out up front. I
agree. Arkansas is known to have big physical guys up front, year in and year out. That's just what they're known as. We even say that when we play them. Like, every year we're like, hey, these guys are going to have a big offensive line, but Alabama did a great job, especially some of the young guys on the defensive line. They did good stopping the run. They showed great pass rush. They just looked very dominant, and they won the line of scrimmage battle both offensively and defensively. And the game is won in the trenches. As long as we play good up front in the trenches, we have all the playmakers. We have all the defenders. We have everything we need. As long as our trench guys are playing great like they did last week, we should have good success.
And that's allowing the edge rushers to get in the backfield. We saw that plenty with Will Anderson and Dallas Turner.
It all works in sync, Roger. You know, when you're getting good interior push, it allows you to shorten that edge for the edge guys. And when you have great edge guys like Will Anderson, Dallas Turner, Chris Braswell, when you have that great push up front, it makes everything easier. And vice versa. When you have great edge presence, it squeezes the pocket. And that way, if those interior guys are just pushing the pocket, the quarterback is either going to have to step up to them, or when they get pushed, he's going to step out and try to roll out to the edge guys if they have contained. So I think Alabama's just done a really good job defensively up front of just working together with everybody inside and out. And it looks great, and I'm excited to watch these guys.
On special teams, there were some good moments last week, specifically with Kool-Aid McKinstry in the punt return game, but also an onside kick that Arkansas was able to recover. Tough snap on a punt that led to Arkansas getting the ball deep in Alabama territory. Just when things happen like that, what's usually the focus on special teams the next week in practice?
Biggest thing is just locking in and making sure that everybody's on the same page. You know, I'll start with the onside kick. I mean, that was a tough one. No one really was probably expecting that. But again, it's just one of those things that it's probably a good thing it happened, and we still were able to win that game, because now going forward, we're going to say, hey, we're going to mention that again every week, and that's going to be a point of emphasis, that make sure that we don't leave the front guys I'm referring to. Don't leave before the ball is kicked. Make sure you see that ball kicked, because that's the rule as a front line guy on the kickoff return unit. You don't want to leave too soon. And that's exactly why, because as soon as you turn your head around, if you don't see that ball, things like that can happen. So they'll put a point of emphasis on that. And in terms of the snap, you know, it could have been a bad snap. I wasn't too sure. I mean, it almost looked like he might have been maybe thinking it could have been almost a fake. It looked like he almost was snapping it to the up back. But it's just one of those things that you just have to hammer on the details and just remember that block out the external noise, take your time, just do your job, and everything will be fine.
And now we're getting set for the Crimson Tide and the Arkansas Razorbacks. Later kick, did you like kickoffs this late, or how were you during the day knowing you still had forever to go? Of course, that happened a lot in some SEC and national championship games, too, waiting forever, it seemed like, to play.
No, that's a great point, Roger. It's a love-hate thing. Like, you love it because it's prime time, it's under the lights, especially now. These guys have the coolest lights. They didn't have them when I was here, but they have this awesome light system. You're in Bryant-Denny. That's exciting, and it's at night. But at the same time, golly, man, it's a long wait during the day. You know, I remember anytime we played late, you know, we'd have meetings, we'd have, you know, meals and whatnot, but we still just find ourselves back in our hotel room, you know, trying to waste time. We're trying to, you know, look over our notes and whatnot, or we'll tune into other games. But I remember I was just like, oh, man, I just want to play, man. Those nerves would just be waiting. I'm just like, I'm just ready to play. I'm ready to play. I'm ready to play.
Well, now we've had the Walk of Champions. The team is here getting dressed, getting ready for this ball game between Alabama and Texas A&M. And coming up, you'll be on the sidelines once again. We're thrilled to have you as our Cooks Pest Control sideline reporter. Just, Christian, have a blast down on the sidelines, talking with Coach Saban at halftime, and we look forward to your analysis all throughout the game. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, Roger. Excited to be here. Let's do this.
That's Christian Miller. I'm Roger Hoover. We'll continue with more in just a moment from Tuscaloosa. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.